to Get Real with Estiel, a woman empowerment podcast hosted by Estiel Albaba. Hello and welcome to another episode of Get Real with Estiel. Today is Monday, January 29th, 2018. As you can tell, my voice is very congested. I am recovering from a nasty cold that's been in my body for a few days now, and my voice was just way worse than it is now. So I waited till the last or end of the day on Monday to actually release this episode, opposed to releasing it earlier in the day. So I hope I'll make sense, and I hope you'll forgive my occasional coughs here and there, as I am still recovering. So for today's episode, I've gonna be sharing success principle number 37 and 38. They're very intertwined, they're very connected and related, and they're talking about motivation and passion and enthusiasm. So I'll share with you something before I actually delve into the content of these chapters. And just to remind you, these chapters are extracted by the Success Principle written by Jack Canfield. I share with you some of the things he wrote in the chapters, but offer you my own personal reflection on the matter as well. So what I was going to share before I delve into the content is that at one point I was wondering if it's the right time for me to start my podcast. In other words, I thought maybe I should be wherever I want to be in my life, and then I would earn the credibility and the right to start sharing things with people. Once I'm successful, according to my own standards, because, you know, success is very subjective. What success is for one person may differ to the other. But I thought once I personally look at myself as a successful person, then I'd earn the right to create my own content, reflect on content, share it with people, and earn the right for people to listen to me. And this is what I really used as an excuse to delay my podcast, because it was on my mind like for a few years before I actually started it. But then I thought, why wouldn't I just start it and share my journey with people? Because success is ultimately growth. You're always going to be continually growing in life. I've achieved certain things thus far, but I still aspire to achieve so much more. And if I was to have stuck to the original logic by delaying this podcast because I'm not where I want to be, then ultimately, if you think about it, I will never get to it, because every milestone I achieve, there will be another one set. This is just how much of a goal-oriented person I am, and people like this are always looking at what's next. And sometimes it's something that you have to remind yourself that as much motivation, enthusiasm, and passion as you have, it's really important to balance this with humbleness and gratitude for everything that this journey brings you, so that you can actually enjoy the process and not just feel inadequate. Because if you're always looking to achieve what's next, then whatever you currently have at hand and at present wouldn't feel like it's good enough. And that's really a trap that a lot of people fall into. And I myself was falling into it as well. But really, reflection helps me a lot as far as identifying where I'm at and where I want to be. And this is what this podcast is, to share my journey, to share my thoughts, even though some of these things I haven't mastered yet. Sharing them is really helping me understand them more, but really adding value to you as well, because they're important concepts for everybody to learn. And that's the value I get fulfilled by creating. So thank you for listening. And this was a little bit of a side note to start with, but it was a really important personal note to mention, because I will be reflecting on some of these content, and I will be honest in how I personally implement them in my life, even if I haven't mastered them yet. And just because I haven't mastered them doesn't mean I didn't earn the right to share it. So there goes my side note. So let me start you off with a quote by Cummins Wilson. He said, "A successful person realizes his personal responsibility for self-motivation. He starts with himself because he possesses the key to his own ignition switch." And Kevin Wilson, by the way, he's the founder of Holiday Inn Hotels. I'm sure you've heard of it because it's an international, maybe North American, but anyways, I'm sure you've heard of Holiday Inn. So This is a very interesting quote because there's so many times in my life where I do feel demotivated. It's just a natural part of the emotional cycles that people go through. And times where I feel down and potentially just plain, like there's nothing really to get me out of bed as eager as I usually do, I really sit there and reflect, like, what is it? What is it that I can think about right this instant, right this moment, that can change my physical and ultimately my emotional, psychological state? And sometimes it really is an effort. And one thing that really helps is really physical fitness. So hitting the gym at the time where you feel down, as hard and as tough as it sounds, it really has an immediate impact on your body, because the way you feel, the way your body feels ultimately impacts your psychology. And it's almost impossible to have this adrenaline rush by the exercise that you do and not have it impact your psychology. So one of the things I do when I'm feeling demotivated is either hit the gym or do some sort of activity that involves, a physical activity of some sort. Even if it's just standing up for a few minutes and just putting my hands up in the air, stretching out or something like that, it boosts your self-confidence. And that's really something that's worked for me in the past. But really, it's not always easy and it's not always feasible, because what if you're at work and you have, like, let's say 10-hour work ahead of you? It's not like you can just leave the work and hit the gym. But one thing you can think about, if this type of feeling hits you midway through your day, is think about the things you want to create or the things you want to improve in your life as a result of the work you're having. So one example I actually read recently in an article, it was saying something along the lines of, imagine you're taking your kid to the hospital. No one enjoys the hospital. No one enjoys sitting in the emergency room for hours, but everyone is passionate about their kid and their kid's wellness. So the ultimate goal is to have your kid, become healthy again. And you are willing to go through this troublesome, really annoying, frustrating process because the end goal in itself is so important for you. And this is an analogy that is so relevant here, because sometimes we go through certain tasks at work, and I'm sure of it that we all experience that, where we just feel like dragged down by it. We're not enjoying it. It's something that doesn't bring us joy or fulfillment. The problem is, if the majority of your work tasks are falling in that category, then you have to do self-reflection whether or not you're in the right role. But if your role overall is filled with things that you're enjoying, but every once in a while you deal with certain things that are not enjoyable, then that's more realistic, because that's just how it works. Every single job on this planet has these days, has these tasks, and has these just burden on you. So one of the things you need to do is be self-motivated and talk to yourself if you have to. As crazy as that sounds, I do believe that sometimes you just have to put yourself straight. Within us, we have a parent ego and a child ego. And whenever we're feeling demotivated, we're calling for attention, our child ego is becoming more profound. And sometimes our parent ego has to come and play and say, you have to suck it up and just do it. And then maybe even treat yourself. Just like when you're a kid, if you do your homework, you get a cookie or something. As an adult, you have to treat yourself with things that keep you on that self-motivated track. So maybe schedule your cumbersome tasks for a specific day of the week and say, this specific day, I'm just going to deal with all these things that I've been procrastinating and I'm delaying and I'm not happy with. And as a treat for myself, I'll go out to a spa after, or I may just, go out with my girlfriends, or, order in one of my favorite meals and just watch Netflix. So look forward to that evening, knowing that you're going to spend the day on cumbersome tasks, and really that lightens up the burden. And I didn't even think I would be delving into that specific example, but it just came to mind because I recently was discussing that with my own VP at work. She is my mentor, and I was discussing with her certain things that I personally suffer from to keep myself motivated at work, because I am very motivated. I consider myself positive, and I do look forward to my work, but it bothers me when there's days where these are tasks that I'm not looking forward to. And she helps me put things in perspective and the realistic lens that she offers me as far as how most jobs include that, if not all of them. So that was just another note that was embedded in recent conversations, and I thought was relevant given the topic we're discussing here, which is how to keep yourself motivated. So to move on, excuse me, this is something statistically shared in this chapter. These statistics, I think, are based in America, but we can at least learn something from them. The average person commutes 30 minutes a day to and from work. And I think that's, more or less the same thing in Toronto, Canada. So it's relevant. So in 5 years, you would have had accumulated over 1,250 hours in your car just commuting from and to work, excluding the other commutes that you do for leisure activities. So that's enough time to give yourself an equivalency of a college education. And I think that is so profound for us to learn, because you're listening to this podcast right now, and chances are you're commuting to work while you're listening to it. At least that's what I do. On my way to work, I listen to podcasts. So if we put things in perspective, and if you are focusing on a specific topic while you're commuting to work, in 5 years, it's equivalent to as if you've went to university. And that is so big, because a lot of people just waste their time commuting, listening to just music or just doing nothing really, and that maybe even increases their road rage. But imagine if we're able to maximize the efficiency of our day. And sometimes I share these thoughts with my friends, and they tell me that this is all good and handy, but I shouldn't be overdoing it either. And I agree with that. There are times where you need to listen to the music because you're just so overwhelmed by a lot of different things that happened at work that day, and on your commute back from work, you just want to relax and wind down your brain. So that's perfectly fine. I'm not saying to be intensely focused on every single minute of your day and maximizing everything, because you obviously need the rest and you need to restart and refresh your brain and give it the rest it deserves. But I'm talking, the concept in itself is important to acknowledge as something that you can start implementing in your life. Because what's happening when you're picking up something that you're interested in learning and committing time to it, this is giving you a little bit more motivation, because you feel a sense of accomplishment. So self-motivation is important, but ultimately, we are defaulted to be lazy creatures. So we have to always equip ourselves with certain tools to make sure that we're sustaining this motivation, because it's not going to stay on its own. I'm not sure who said that, but it was a quote along the lines that self-motivation, it's like a bath. It doesn't last daily. That's why you shower daily. And I may have butchered the quote, but it was simply comparing taking a bath to being motivated. So you take a bath every day because, whatever, like when you clean yourself, it's not going to last. You need to do it every day. And so is the case with being motivated. You need to consistently work on that state. Excuse me. So I really believe in reading motivational books or listening to motivational audios, because they are helpful tools to keep you on track. But what goes hand in hand with motivation, and now we're gonna get into chapter or principle number 38, because 37, the self-motivation one, was short. I just wanted to delve into another principle and combine it together, which is principle number 38. And just a side note here, the majority of the things I shared from self-motivation principle is really just self-reflection. I didn't offer much of what the chapter itself offered as far as content is concerned, because the chapter was talking about specific audio programs you can listen to, and they shared a story about somebody who had a breakthrough in his life because of a audio program he listened to. And I just wanted to offer something personal to me, so I didn't share the content in that chapter. So principle number 38, it's called Fuel Your Success with Passion and Enthusiasm. And like I said, it really seeps into being self-motivated. And let me share with you a quote by Ralph Waldo Emerson, who's an essayist and a poet. And he said, "Enthusiasm is one of the most powerful engines of success. When you do a thing, do it with all your might. Put your whole soul into it. Stamp it with your own personality. Be active, be energetic, be enthusiastic and faithful, and you will accomplish your object. Nothing great was ever achieved without enthusiasm." And that is so true, because ultimately in days where you want to give up, it's only your passions and your enthusiasm towards a specific goal that are going to keep you through. So a fun fact, the word enthusiasm actually comes from a Greek word, and the Greek word is entheos, which means to be filled with God. So when you're filled with God, you're filled with that spirit, then you're naturally just inspired and passionate. So that's what the word in itself means. And sometimes that passion expresses itself in dynamic and energetic ways that you don't even understand, because it just comes through your body. It ignites your creativity. It ignites, fuels you with drive that you haven't even witnessed. And that's all because of how much faith you have in yourself. Once you get excited about a certain idea, you get filled with purpose and you're just committed to your mission. I have days where I'm feeling that, and it really is such a beautiful feeling to have. But as I said earlier, it's important to understand this is not a feeling that just you have to take for granted. It cannot be taken for granted. It is something that is your responsibility to maintain, and the ounce is on you to make sure that you're then following through with it to turn that passion into something tangible as far as the work you produce as a result of it. So the ounce is on you. So I'll share with you how to keep passion and enthusiasm alive in your life. This is one of the pages shared in that book. The rest of the stuff shared here were also stories, so I won't get into that. But I think these are really good takeaways that I'll share with you from this chapter. So passion, obviously, as we know, it's a powerful tool for success. It really is an area that deserves to be acknowledged in your life, because it makes your day fly by. Reflect on the days where you feel passion at work, and reflect about how 5 o'clock came around, if assuming that's the time you finish your work, and you just felt that it just flew by. So think about that. Like what is it that made that day easier for you than it is for the other days, and how can you just maintain that passion throughout the other days as well? And the most obvious thing, obviously, is to spend time on the tasks that you enjoy doing. Like I said earlier, not every job has all sorts of different, most jobs have different types of tasks, and not all of them are enjoyable. But obviously the days where you spend your days on the things you enjoy are the ones that go by fast and you feel passionate about. So now it's just something you have to reflect on. If you're able to start delegating some of the tasks that you do not feel compelled about. I just had to pause it there for a second because I was sneezing so bad, so excuse me. So to get back into it, another key to passion and enthusiasm is to reconnect with your original purpose for doing anything you want. In days where we feel a little bit cluttered and we're losing focus on why we're doing what we're doing, it's important to remind ourselves to why we started to begin with. That is very, very important. Know your why and write down your why. And when days where you doubt it, go back to that page you wrote and read it. And I personally encourage you to have that as a daily ritual. So I personally, in my office, have a page to why I go to work every day, why it's important for me. And I read this every day in the morning before I start work, because it reminds me to keep my purpose in mind, because it could be easy to be frustrated in the field I'm in and in many other fields. So that is one thing I do to help keep myself motivated. Last thoughts I'll share are the fact that you really have a direct impact and a direct responsibility on your attitude. So whatever happens in your life, how you react to it is a choice. And ultimately, if you have the choice to be passionate and enthusiastic about the things you embark on and the journey you're having in life, so why not be it? At the end of the day, you'll start realizing that when you express your passion and you're just an enthusiastic, energetic person overall, you're going to become a magnet for others. People thrive on meeting people who have that sort of aura and energy to them. So people who will start noticing that you're somebody who's positive and passionate would want to reach out to you. You'd be somebody people want to connect with. Your friends would be loyal to you. And ultimately, you'll create opportunities for yourself, whether it's just from a social perspective, but more so on a professional perspective as well. So remember that the choice is yours, and being passionate in life is something you can develop and something you can maintain. And I truly believe that the power is in our hands. Once we decide on certain things in life, there's nothing to stop us from achieving them. So that is all I have for you today, actually. I didn't cough and sneeze as often as I thought I would, which is great. And I hope my voice is not as bad as I personally think it is. But I really appreciate you listening in and tuning in. And I also would love to hear your feedback. I always mention this, but it really means a lot to me when people send me feedback on certain things they've heard that made a difference in their day, or something they would like to even criticize me on. Like, whatever it is, as long as you're just sending me your thoughts and they're genuine thoughts, I would love to hear it. So please feel free to reach out to me and let me know your thoughts about this podcast and anything else you've heard from me. I look forward to future episodes where we can learn, grow, and most importantly, get real together. Take care, everybody.